Any ideas that might have been in your head that you're looking to get out there?
Yeah, a big thing in the medical field right now is that despite popular belief, the pay is a little bit tricky for a lot of people, making with the inflation as well, everything adding up, things are expensive. So getting the passive income sources for anyone, despite what their career is very important. Real estate's a big one that I'm looking into right now, and I find that it goes up and down, but it's important to be educated about it. I had a friend recently actually that had an issue with a tenant, and they just couldn't get them out. They were like, "Oh, I know my rights. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that." And if we knew, apparently she'd been kicked out before, and we couldn't get that information. It's just very hard. But if we would have known that, we would have more carefully picked the tenant, right? So it's just, it's a lot of like back and forth, and it's struggling. So if you've seen on the news, they have to go and they have to stay in these houses that they're supposedly renting out or for passive income because they're just losing money because the tenants just won't pay. So they're like, okay, I'm just going to move in and I'm going to sit in my house because I bought it. And if you don't move out, I guess I'll just move in because it's a lot of rent money down the drain that you need to pay for the mortgage as well. So that monthly payment is getting messed with as well. So that's why another idea for that would be a tenant landlord review board. So what you could do is you can put in your experience with a certain, like, let's say both sides. So let's say that tenant had horrible experiences with their previous landlord. That's why they were kicked out. They can put that on there. And same thing, vice versa. The landlord can put a review for the tenant. Now, importantly, privacy. Right. So when you're renting something, you want to make sure that your information is private and you're not getting published all this, stuff about yourself. It works really hard if you want to try and get a job as well. If somebody goes and an employer's like, oh, they're not a good tenant. Those little things start to matter in a lot of aspects of your life. So how it would work is you would have to request it. It could be through a real estate agent, or it would only be when you're in talks to getting this person to be a tenant landlord with you. So if I say, let's say I'm looking for tenant X and they have shown interest and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe you can be my tenant, and I'm landlord Y, we have access to each other's history and anything that somebody's posted about us. And if you still are like, no, I don't want to share that, you can refuse. That's your right. But it kind of shows poorly that you probably have bad reviews. So that's something that to consider, but it's an idea to help boost confidence for people getting into that space of real estate.
It sounds, I guess, almost like a social credit.
Yep. Exactly, because a lot of things are social right now, and the way that people do things are just very socially based, and your privacy is important. So if you want to reject getting or giving people access to that, you can put it on like private mode or something. But it's very needed right now for anyone trying to venture.
I wonder, like, what would the already existing alternative be? And it makes me wonder, is there like a list? Is there a website that exists where people are just listing off like, yeah, these are the bad tenants. Like, don't work with this person.
Not that I know of. That could be something like Reddit or on public, or they're just like spamming, or they're like, oh my God, I'm super upset. Not something legitimately formed and has privacy controls or anything like that. Not that I know
Maybe
of.
like a anonymous WhatsApp group or
Yeah,
Telegram
seriously.
group that's like documenting these.
And it's not even that you can
Yeah.
go to a real estate agent and it'll be okay, because my friend actually went through a real estate agent and got that tenant, and they still happen to have a bad history that we didn't know about. So
A real estate agent can only do so much. Like, they can't read the mind of the person that they're bringing you, that they're not going to end up being crazy.
I remember at the time when we found tenants, it was actually when we were showing these tenants that we just selected through either Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji. Afterwards, we were able to budget a X dollar amount, like $20, to run through like a different platform on just like credit checks and documentations on this one platform that we used at the time was called Neighborly, but then it got acquired by Single Key. So at the time it was a startup, and it was a successful exit actually. So as a landlord, after the potential prospect tenant viewed the home, I just got the qualified ones. I just selected a handful to spend $100 on, to then get them to put in all their information on this platform. It's so interesting because if you were to just like do that by hand, asking for their driver's license or like all these information that they need to fill by hand, like what some of the more scrappy landlords might do, that's like so sketchy. But then for some reason, when you do that on a platform dashboard, like a website dashboard, everyone fills in all their information. And then I have like the view on the back end as a landlord, they got relatively okay feedback. So yeah, that's been relatively successful for us. Our place is rented for over 2 years with the same family, and they've been consistently paying on time. But I think this space of squatters or people that are facing evictions is usually kind of overwhelmed within the market of this level of misinformation that gets spread out there with like social media content on just like saying, oh yeah, these TikTokers saying, oh yeah, know your rights. But then what they don't realize is like, oh yeah, eventually the landlords are going to find a way to evict them or figure out a way to legally get them escorted out the property because they haven't paid for so long. And they don't think about the long-term implications of that. I wonder if a platform that just like better helps them with educating them, whatever it's like.
You could put like your questions about like, what are my rights for this specific situation, and have a real estate based AI that gives you a response on that. And that's not just searching the web like GPT, it's focused, and the sources are ML, like machine learned from real estate agents or specific professors who are in real estate law, that kind of stuff.
Sometimes like it might just be misinformation on like what your rights technically are. Then you get the viral videos of this one guy that got viral on Twitch where his buddy had a tenant that was just like squatting the home. I'm not sure if like they were an actual tenant or they just like forged the documents, but somehow they started to squat that home. So that guy or like that landlord guy got his friend to sign with him as being a tenant in the home, and then they just mess with the squatter inside the home. And then both of them are technically tenants, so they're just like roommates legally.
It's like that. And I don't think people realize, because of how misinformed they are, that your rights are one thing, but then if you try to abuse your rights to like mess with another person as well, it's give and take, because you realize that, let's say you do squat and you're like, oh, I know my rights. That friend of mine, they're suing that person for all the missed rent. So now your credit's going to suck, and you're also going to have something on your record saying that you have been sued for thousands of dollars because you refused to pay. And then they're going to be like, were you making any money? And they're like, yeah, but like I didn't want to pay because I'm going to get evicted by the state anyway, so I'm just going to sit here. But no, the landlords will get upset because they have spent hard-earned money trying to pay that mortgage, and they're like being like taken advantage of, which isn't fair either to the party that's trying to make some extra cash.
And it's not just going to be easily dismissed small claims court kind of case. I think it is going to be way greater than $5,000.
I feel like we can sort of get into the tail end here.